We finally got some clarity on what's going on with Jermaine Burton as he's dealing with a knee issue. Let's break down all the injury updates and practice notes from the Bengals practice on Tuesday.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jake Liscow. He's James Rapien. We've been covering the Cincinnati Bengals here on Locked On Bengals since 2016. So if you're not an everydayer yet and you're looking for a daily source of updates and news and clarity on what's going on with your Cincinnati Bengals, you're in the right place. You can hit that subscribe button on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast. Shout out to all of you who make Locked On Bengals your first listen as well. Today, we're brought to you by FanDuel. Football season right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. James, today we're going to dive into a bunch of injury updates, some things trending in the right direction for the Bengals here early this week before Monday Night Football, just under a week away now as we record this on Tuesday. A lot longer of a gap here than I think we're used to in preseason games. It feels like that game should be right around the corner, but we still have several practices to get through. But let's start with Jermaine Burton as he issued a statement on Monday. The Bengals were off, but I guess Burton and his camp saw a lot of speculation following perhaps his reputation, the issues he had last year about his absence being related to something that was not stated by the Bengals. The Bengals said it was injury related, and Burton clarifying, apparently rebutting some quote-unquote reports. I didn't see any quote-unquote reports. I saw maybe some speculation that his absence was not injury-related.
Yeah, look, a couple of things. One, I have no reason to believe that it isn't injury-related. Like, there's no obvious thing. There's no rumblings that he was late or any of the issues that we ran into last year and reported on and discussed. But no one should be shocked that the internet would speculate on something that was an issue last year. And what do I mean? What was the issue? Doing the basic things for Germaine Burton. So, shocker, it's going to take a little time for people to adjust to that. I understand that. I also understand the people that believe Germaine might have turned over a new leaf, want to believe that Germaine turned over a new leaf, and go that route. What I don't get, and I can only speak for myself, I don't understand, and this has nothing to do with Germaine, and it has to do with fans, but the fans that are weird about people are about reporters that say, like I said, Germaine wasn't there, and he wasn't there, and he wasn't on the rehab field, and I said that, and he wasn't on the rehab field. That's it. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's no issue there. There's nothing to do with clicks or stirring the pot. It's the information, and it's important information, especially given the fact that fans care about Germaine and root for Germaine. And a lot of our listeners and viewers want him to succeed. And so if he's just randomly not out there, well, that's noteworthy. No one's saying that he's not hurt. At least I'm not. And clearly he's dealing with something. He worked on the rehab field on Tuesday and then joined his teammates at practice. Spoiler, Jake, I'm not sure if you saw this. I posted a video of that too, because when Germaine shows up, even mid-practice, that's noteworthy too. He wasn't there the other day. So I think that part is interesting. I don't know exactly why Germaine felt like he needed to make a statement. Maybe it's because of all the online stuff. Maybe he did see reports that were that way. I think that everything I've seen, and I'm not searching and looking at everything all the other reporters are doing, but what I've seen is what I've done, and I'm comfortable with what I've said about the situation, given that it does appear to be a knee injury. And so hopefully it's nothing serious. Hopefully he can be back out there with the team in this longer break before that Monday night game. He has enough time to heal up and play, because obviously he's going to get meaningful reps against the Commanders if he's healthy.
Yeah, and he's in a group of players for whom reps in the preseason will be valuable, especially, and I don't think we know yet if the Commanders play starters and we get a higher level of competition than they got against the Philadelphia Eagles. The statement ended up bringing more attention to it than I think there was before the statement. That is often the side effect of such a thing, but clearly they felt it necessary, they being whoever was in the group making the decision to put out the statement, to combat whatever they were seeing. Germaine Burton also, as you wrote about on BengalsTalk.com, was at the Bengals facility when he was not at practice. He was in the locker room after practice, and that was also previously reported. So hopefully we can just not have big dust-ups whenever Jermaine Burton misses a practice. You know, he's with, some knee swelling, according to Zach Taylor, doing everything he can to get back. Hopefully he's just back, and every time he misses a practice, it's not a huge issue.
No doubt. It's just you're under the microscope a little bit. That's all.
Yeah. And some of that is deserved. He's got a reputation that he's going to have to earn back some trust from fans.
And that's it. That's it. And I think that's where a lot of the speculation came from. Honestly, I'm not reading everything that everyone's putting out there or listening to everything. There's just not enough time in the day, but he's someone that people care about or feel strongly about, period. That's a fact when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals. So what he does is newsworthy. And if that's catch a deep ball in practice, guess what? I'm probably tweeting out that clip because Jermaine Burton caught a deep ball. Do I have every Isaiah Williams highlight? I don't. Like, there are eyes on Jermaine Burton. It's a bit different for him. And that's part of being a third round pick versus an undrafted guy or being a guy that a lot of people think can be a difference maker on this team. And he's battling for wide receiver 4 snaps. We'll get into practice notes. Charlie Jones had some nice catches with the first team again on Tuesday and continues to make his push. And so that's where Jermaine is right now. And I think, again, like I said, hopefully he can get healthy. And when he's healthy, I think we know. I mean, we saw the other night, even though he only had 1 catch for 3 yards, he still had a 32-yard punt return. Like, he's got talent. And hopefully he can go out there and show what he can do.
Speaking of highlights that you have or have not tweeted, a couple of those roster battles we talked about yesterday will come up again today when we're talking about practice notes. But let's catch up on the other injury updates here. We have some guys returning to practice, some guys working on the rehab field, a couple guys missing practice on Tuesday that we're going to keep our eye on here. We'll get into all of those updates coming up next.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live bold and live for bold predictions, preseason hunches, and what is it? Well, for 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, Joe Burrow, who looked really good again today, maybe you don't think it's going to be Joe Burrow. Maybe you think it's going to be someone else. Maybe you think it'll be Jared Goff, which would never make sense. But eyeing a long shot division winner, or maybe you're ready to crown a Super Bowl champ before week 1 even starts. And man, week 1's going to be here before we know it, Jake. This is your moment. Visit FanDuel today by downloading the FanDuel app and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. BJ Hill was back, Jake, on Tuesday, back in with his team, lining up, working with the defensive linemen, and super valuable having 92 back on the field. He said the plan is for him to be ready for week 1. That's been my impression the whole time. I think the Bengals are really taking it slow with him, knowing how durable he's been, knowing how he's been able to play through issues in the past. It's August 12th. And so they are not going to push it too fast, too quick, or anything like that, or put him at risk. But it does seem like he's trending in the right direction and should be available week 1, even if we don't see him in the preseason.
It's August 12th and week 1 is September 7th. So that means he's got about 4 weeks between now and then. About 4 weeks, just under 4 weeks.
Yep.
To be in playing shape. And the Bengals having added a little bit of depth with Taven Bryan, with Howard Cross in the mix of defensive tackle. And again, we're going to come back to Howard Cross and where he is in the rotation. If he can't play BJ Hill share of snaps in week 1, okay. But the sooner he's back and at full health and at full capacity, the better. I don't know if we're going to see him in any team drills before they kick you guys out of practice after 15 minutes.
Wow.
Meaning, like, for all of training camp. Do you think you're going to see BJ Hill in 11 on 11 anytime this year, essentially? Because when they kick you out of practice earlier, when you get closer to the season and end season, you're obviously not there for any team drills that are happening later in practice.
No, it's a good point. I haven't thought about it till now, but I was also thinking, like, man, who am I going to see in team drills first, Trey Hendrickson or BJ Hill? And it's like, probably neither.
Neither. Yeah.
No is the right answer there.
Yeah.
No, Trey was there, by the way, not participating on Tuesday. And I was taking a video of him talking with Jerry Montgomery, the Bengals defensive line coach, like as stretching was happening. And Katie Blackburn walked like past me in the shot. And I was like, oh man, she was on the phone too. Now, not with Trey's representatives, I don't think.
Negotiate anyway. Actively, obviously.
Actively. I want Trey done now. No,
right in front of you guys is how Katie would carry out those negotiations, obviously.
No, I mean, since there's been a lot of big breaking news on podcasts over the past 24 hours, Katie, just jump on and announce it. Trey, jump on and announce it. Maybe together. You want to do that? We could go live. It'd be great. I would love that. The invitation anytime, literally anytime. We will certainly be able to do that. But no, it's a good point about BJ. I don't think we will. Because why would you? We're talking about equity. He's got all of the equity when it comes to managing injuries. And he's done that. He's played through pain over the past few years. One, I think that this was a pretty significant foot injury. And I heard that in the spring. And clearly they're looking at it that way and approaching it that way. The good news is it feels like he's trending in the right direction, and the rest and the maintenance that they've done has put him in position to be ready for week 1.
You've seen time and time again foot injuries that just come back up. And so anything they can do to mitigate the chances of that coming back up down the road, when obviously it's much more important for BJ Hill to be practicing and playing. We'll see how they manage him all year. This could be one of those veteran off days that we see all year for BJ Hill. It's going to be very interesting to see how those practice reports shape up in the season. The other injury notes, guys, moving in the right direction, or at least returning to the practice field. Joseph Ossai, who was described as day-to-day by Zach Taylor in the news conference he had before practice, was out there and was participating in 11 on 11s. Dax Hill was back at practice, and undrafted rookie Seth McLaughlin taking his first team drills, James Rapien, at center, where I have been complaining about this more than I should, but we might get a little bit of a shot in the arm for the second team if Seth McLaughlin can play center on Monday.
Which means Matt Lee still not participating in team drills, for those wondering. It's interesting. Now it's interesting. If you're Matt Lee, maybe he's just secure where he is. Right. And I don't mean him feeling this way. I know he wants to be out there for what it's worth. But maybe the Bengals just are like, let's just make sure he's right. Right. But you got this undrafted free agent that certainly would have been drafted if he wasn't coming off of an Achilles, and he's trying to push. He's trying to really make an impact here and make a push for the 53. Maybe it's not. Maybe we don't see him. And maybe that's it. Maybe we just don't see Seth this preseason. But I think we do. And if we see him in the preseason and he plays well, that's a real discussion, because there's a lot of human bodies, is how I'm going to phrase it, in that offensive line room. And only so many can make the team.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit yesterday, where it seems as if Matt Lee would be the default thought at center, but they might want to see him play at some point. I'm not really sure how much of a competition that is right now. Maybe if Seth McLaughlin goes out there and plays out of his mind, right? Then it gets spicy. We'll see how it is after the second preseason game. Other injury notes: Geno Stone, Cedric Johnson spotted heading to some rehab work on the rehab fields, along with Jermaine Burton, who you mentioned earlier was on a rehab field on Tuesday. Devin Cochran not practicing, who had been working with the second team at tackle. Mike Gesicki obviously still not practicing. Trey Hendrickson obviously didn't practice. Cam Sample, one of the guys that did not practice. I don't think there's any indication that any of these are severe injuries right now. We've heard the team generally downplaying most of these injuries. The one that's potentially promising, Cedric Johnson on the rehab field, hopefully that means he's close to returning to practice in the next couple of days. Hopefully they get to see him in the preseason at some point, because that was a player who certainly flashed last year and hasn't really had an opportunity to show anything because he's been hurt this preseason, which is a tough way to be when you're trying to make the team.
It is. It's very tough. And he's someone that I think back to the spring, and I'm just kind of chatting with guys in the locker room, and he came up a few times as someone that could matter. And like, man, all the Shamar drama was going on. And so I couldn't ask them about Shamar. And it's like, oh, well, who's standing out? And you're talking to trench guys. So I'll go that far and say that. And they're like, oh, well, Cedric Johnson can play, man. And so it's a bummer. It's a bummer. And I'm not sure what the path is, how the path works, but hopefully he can inch closer and get on the field soon.
It's a tough room to crack in the first place. We've
Yeah.
talked about the amount of players they have there. He would probably be number 6. I think he would certainly be number 6 behind Cam Sample, Joseph Ossai, Shamar Stewart, Miles Murphy, Trey Hendrickson. So it's a tough room to crack. We've talked about the difficulty of finding where that last player is going to sneak onto the roster. Maybe it is a 5th linebacker. Maybe they feel like they're going to be playing a lot of base. We know Al Golden wants to use a lot of linebackers, and maybe that pushes them toward a 5th linebacker. We'll see how that shakes out as well. But James, let's get to the rest of our practice notes here. It was practice that we saw 2 move the ball periods and a couple of 2-minute drill drives that featured big plays from Andre Yosevach, Mitch Tinsley. Going to talk about Mitch Tinsley again in this episode. Howard Cross getting reps against the ones, a big play for Jordan Battle in 11-on-11s going against Joe Burrow. We'll hit all of those notes as we wrap up Tuesday's practice coming up next.
This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. I have multiple fantasy drafts in Yahoo Fantasy leagues this year, and that's an annual tradition for me. Make it an annual tradition for you, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is going to be perfect for you. And here's the beauty of Yahoo Fantasy. So I've been playing fantasy football for a really long time, and literally Joe Burrow was probably like 8 when I had my first fantasy football league, right? And I love it. I can't get enough of fantasy. Well, it started with Yahoo Fantasy, and they have something new this year to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness. Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August, and they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time, whether you're trying a guillotine league, I'm going to try one for the first time, or classic leagues like head-to-head private leagues or a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now, like me, by going to yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL.
What were your big thoughts, James, watching the various team drills today? Does it start with a first Jordan Battle, maybe, or are you thinking something else?
I thought the offense overall was pretty darn good, but it should start with the first when Joe Burrow, it's August 12th, and Joe Burrow hasn't thrown an interception in 11-on-11. And so, yeah, Jordan Battle, for all the talk about the safeties, you want to start to see plays. And he made a play, potentially a pick 6, certainly an interception, regardless, on Joe Burrow. It was intended for Mitch Tinsley, and Jordan Battle just made a heck of a play. And that's what you want to see from this defense. We've talked about the energy, the competitive spirit, the fight. They've made some plays on the ball. You want to see some interceptions, and those are hard to come by when you're facing Joe Burrow. He's having the best camp. I can't emphasize it enough. The best camp of his career. And we could talk about how he responded to that interception. But yeah, really great play by Jordan Battle.
We got to see numerous angles of it, which is pretty nice. I like that we get the one corner of the end zone shot, the other corner of the end zone shot. So good job to you and the other media folks down there getting those clips. And it looks like just a really nice play from Jordan Battle, jumping a backside dig and it was Mitch Tinsley on the backside dig, and Jordan Battle was aware of the threats. He might have even baited it a little bit. Looks like he's bailing out of that side of the field, and I think Joe Burrow sees where Jordan Battle's steps are taking him, which is toward the middle of the field, away from the dig from Mitch Tinsley, and he immediately gets to Joe Burrow's eyes as Jordan Battle sees where Joe's looking, slams on the brakes and jumps the pass for a really nice interception. And like you said, really good chance that that's a pick six or at least a substantial return because he's catching it going downhill. So that is a heck of a play for Jordan Battle there. I don't think that, I mean, it's hard to tell. Maybe Joe Burrow could have made a better decision, but it didn't look like a terrible decision from what I could see. It looked like a really good play from Jordan Battle. And it's nice to see the defense have that because, like you said, other than that, it looks like a lot of wins for the offense. On this day, we had Mitch Tinsley converting a fourth down on a corner route, which with Joe Burrow is noteworthy. We're going to stay on Mitch Tinsley here for a second. We had a beautiful deep ball to Andre Joseph again on a fourth down in the 2-minute drill work they were doing at the end of practice. We had a walk-in touchdown for Samaje Perine. James, what else stood out to you in the team drills for the offense winning?
Shout out to Samaje Perine. For those that have saw my angle, he could have ran me over.
Yeah.
He didn't. He was very nice. I thanked him in the locker room. He laughed, didn't promise that he wouldn't do it in moving forward. And I'd really not want Perine to do that because it's a bowling ball. I mean, he's a bowler. He would be one of my least favorite guys to have to deal with in the open field. That being said, the Andre Joseph deep ball was the response. So Joe Burrow throws that pick six, and then they're in the 2-minute drill. And I had just asked Richard Skinner, hey, do you think that, because it was their first 2-minute drill, do you think they need to get 3 or 6 here? Joe might have heard me, and he said, oh, I want 6. And he just finds Andre deep, beating Josh Newton. Heck of a ball. Obviously, nice route and catch by Andre Joseph. So that was one of those nice responses, I would say, offensively from Joe Burrow after throwing his first 11-on-11 interception of camp.
And I really like the way Andre talked about it after practice, and Dan Horde, and I'm sure others have the quote, but I'm looking at Dan Horde's tweet right now. It's crazy because as a receiver, you kind of expect the ball to be somewhere versus a certain coverage, said Andre Joseph, and it's there every time. It's like a video game, basically. And he also was quoted, or maybe I listened to him say this because he talked at his locker after practice about how based on the leverage, he's like, yeah, no, I'm probably getting the ball here. And then he got the ball there, and it was a perfect throw. Drop in the bucket. Not the best coverage, but not terrible coverage from Josh Newton, who's trailing him there. Tries to swipe at the ball, but the ball placement just too good. Beautiful throw there to Andre Joseph. I also thought it was a great ball to Mitch Tinsley on the corner route. That was another fourth down conversion. Mitch Tinsley stacking some plays here. After when I was in town, he got shout outs from Zach Taylor, from Joe Burrow, made a play in that preseason game. What are you thinking about Mitch Tinsley right now, James?
I think he's made some plays. He's the guy that would be that fringe 7th guy, and he's finding ways out there. Now, they were working multiple guys in. Isaiah Williams had 2 touchdown grabs today in team drills, both from Jake Browning, to be clear, but still, he made those. But Mitch has let's just put it like this, and let's be honest. Mitch has made us talk about him. Mitch has made Joe Burrow mention him. He has done enough to get himself on the field. And so what he does over the next week is going to be huge. And then going into Indy, obviously Indy is going to be a big game as well. But over the next week, that's a huge stretch here for number 82. I do want to mention that Joe Burrow had a really nice I mentioned Charlie Jones earlier in the pod. Charlie Jones had a couple nice plays, but Joe Burrow had a perfect ball. Like Demetrius Knight stretched arm. I mean, it was fingertips away to Charlie Jones over the middle. There was another one that was really cool. And I want to mention this because I could totally see this happening in the game. I talked to Chase Brown about it afterward. Little back shoulder, Demetrius Knight in coverage. He's like diving in the end zone, nearly catches it. I talked to him after. It wasn't as close as it looked like in my shot, but I think they figured that out. Like Joe Burrow throwing to Chase Brown like that in single coverage, treating him like a receiver. There's trust there. Wouldn't shock me at all if we see we see some of that. So the offense continues to evolve. The other thing I would mention, this was certainly a Noah Fant day. Noah Fant with at least 3 catches in team drills. They used him in a bunch of different ways. He caught a screen, caught a pass, a catch and run over the middle. You're going to notice 86 for sure. So just a few things that I noticed today.
Noah Fant, what was it? Sunday, we're doing days again, struggling with days again here on Locked On Bengals, as is tradition. Talking about how Cincinnati feels like the Midwest he grew up in Nebraska, went to Iowa. Was it Nebraska where he grew up? I'm now forgetting. What I think didn't he grow up in Omaha?
I'm gonna look. Omaha. Yeah, Omaha. Yeah.
So Midwest feel there for Noah Fant, helping him choose the Bengals. I mean, a small drop in the bucket compared to Joe Burrow throwing you passes. Excited to see how Noah Fant fits into the game plan on Monday and get our look at him in a game situation, because I think, as he's starting to wrap his head around what Dan Pitcher described as the 600 level Joe Burrow offense, as he's trying to catch up. If he is catching up, that athletic skill set is exciting. And we've talked about it. We talked about it yesterday, how he does something that the other tight ends on the roster don't do in terms of versatility. Not the best blocker in the world, but you can put him in line and he can move like guys on this team can't move, especially when you're talking about speed and power the way he's built. So excited to see that from Noah Fant. There was one play that was tweeted for Noah Fant catching a crosser and taking it upfield after the catch. So nice to hear that it was more than just that highlight. Nice to hear, of course, Charlie Jones continuing to make plays. The other practice notes to mention here, we've continued to see much of the same with the guard and tackle with the second team. Cody Ford still mostly working at tackle, or entirely working at tackle. Still Jalen Rivers working at guard. So we'll see and keep an eye on how that continues to develop. And I said we would come back to Howard Cross, James. You go look at a couple of the plays that Dan Hoare tweeted in his 5 observations. And I know all of you listening probably check out Dan Hoare's 5 observations every day. The deep ball to Andre Yosevach, Howard Cross on the field. Howard Cross, his 5th observation. Howard Cross continuing to get early work. And that makes me wonder, where is that competition? Is it Howard Cross, Taven Bryan? Taven Bryan playing edge for them, playing earlier than Howard Cross typically. Is it actually a competition with McKinley Jackson, who seems to be backing up nose tackle? So you could argue those guys are playing different positions. If they end up keeping Howard Cross, James, I guess my question is who's the odd man out? Because I don't think you're keeping 6 defensive tackles.
Want to guess who had a false or had an offsides called on them?
Well, based on how he teed that up, I'm guessing McKinley Jackson.
McKinley Jackson did. I'm just saying. And he also had 3 tackles for loss in the preseason game. Like it's unique.
And the penalty on the field goal, which they have brought up about 6 times since that game.
That's right, the penalty. So, and then a penalty today. Like it's one of those that in Zach Taylor praised Howard Cross. Jeez, oh Pete. You get praised Cross. I think McKinley Jackson could be threatened a bit, put it that way. Maybe not. Maybe it's Taven Bryan. Maybe that's it. But Howard Cross seems to be in the good graces, and not just like good graces. Oh, this is a fun story. Like, has the trust, and trust is a big thing. And how much of that is dating back to Notre Dame versus what he's done since signing with the Bengals as an undrafted free agent? I'm not sure, but I do remember when he signed as an undrafted free agent, a lot of people said, he's has a real shot to make the 53 man. It's looking more and more like that's the case.
I remember thinking, well, that's the guy Al Golden's bringing in. There's the one. Because we were all waiting for them to draft the Notre Dame defensive player. And then they didn't. And then it was Howard Cross after the draft. So obviously that relationship seeming to matter as he's getting those opportunities. I'll say this. I would like to see him play a little bit better in preseason game number 2 if he's going to continue to get these opportunities. I see what there is to like. I just need to see it translate to some productivity. That's just my perspective on it. James, anything else from practice that's really important that we should hit on before we get out of here?
Evan McPherson kicked I believe it was a 52-yard field goal.
That's not even 70 yards. Pathetic.
It was well timed. I like that. How about that? That was good. But yeah, drilled it. So there you go.
How about that 70-yarder preseason Jacksonville?
Yep.
I think that record should count. What do you think? Field goal records in preseason? I think that should just count.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it? I would say this. If you're looking for a kicker in fantasy, a guy who can kick 70 yards, Yahoo Fantasy, yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl.
Sorry, I interrupted you though. Evan McPherson, 52-yarder to finish practice.
Yeah. Yep. And then they broke up and did more special team stuff. And I was like, hey, is practice over? Practice over. I was like, all right, I'll see you at the locker room. And I started walking back.
There you go. The Bengals have another practice on Wednesday. Zach Taylor said that they practice inside on Tuesday, anticipating some heat, trying to keep guys fresh for what will be, according to Taylor, a heavier session on Wednesday. So we'll be back after Wednesday's practice with more news, notes, updates, takeaways as the Bengals continue their training camp. We're in the dog days now. We're in.
Oh, that's a good dog days.
That's where we are here. The dog days of training camp. Until then, thanks for listening to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Hoo day, and have a good one.
Oh.